Those thumps recorded in a house by a university academic have never been satisfactorily explained. They're the kind of poltergeist evidence researcher Tony Cornell has been evaluating for 30 years. A graduate of Cambridge, Cornell has lived all his life in the town, except for a spell as a naval officer. His interest in the paranormal was first roused in India by an old man who could apparently defy the laws of time and space.
He said, well, my son, if you want to learn about wisdom of life, look over the hills, look over the hills. You see, he was standing next to me here like this. I said, what? He said, look over the hills. And I looked over the hills, and I heard the voice say to me, now do you understand? And I thought at the time, now do you understand? Turned, and the man wasn't there. He was the other side of a stream. It's a very fast stream rushing down with boulders in the middle of it. And I remember looking at him and thinking, well, how the devil did you get over there? Your toga's not wet, where are the ropes? I couldn't work it out at all. I was thunderstruck about this. This was absolute nonsense. I'm being hallucinated or something. And he said, no, smiled at me and said, look over the hills, look over the hills. And I looked over the hills, and the voice then says, now do you understand? And I turned, he's next to me. And I went down from that mountain, not quite so cocky as the way when I came up it.
Since that experience, Tony Cornell has investigated hundreds of supposed hauntings and never seen a thing. Yet his latest case, a chest of drawers with an apparent life of its own, shows his search for the truth to be unflagging. The drawers of the chest, which is kept in a storeroom, have been opening apparently when no one's there. So at the owner's request, Tony and two young physics graduates have wired it to a camera and a computer. The case has many typical poltergeist ingredients.
They'd had plates thrown about. They'd had a vase sail across the room 15 feet. They'd had various disturbances, hearing things but never seeing it. They wanted this thing cleared up. They thought they got a poltergeist in the house. They didn't like this chest of drawers behaving the way it was. They didn't like all the other things they had had, so in we go.
It's at this point where experienced investigators have to consider whether they're being spun a line. Magician David Burglass's stage billing is International Man of Mystery, but he's also a trained psychotherapist and vice chairman of the Committee for Scientific Investigation into Claims of the Paranormal. One poltergeist case he investigated in Holland showed how quite young children can bamboozle the adults around them.
In this house, the clock hands kept bending. And it happened even when apparently nobody was in the house. It happened when the family had gone on a holiday. There was a father, mother, and a little boy. Obviously, they suspected the boy at first. Then they found that he couldn't have done it because he'd been on holiday. When I came along and talked to the family, they were quite convinced that somehow I would get to the truth, whatever it might be. When I came to the little boy, I decided to play it very cool rather than being the heavy investigator, and I put my arm around him and I said, Eric, so why did you do it? He assumed that I already knew, so he said, just for fun. At that moment, the whole thing had been solved. And there are some of the cuttings, as you can see. This one says, David Burglass solves the clock mystery. It was then up to me to try and find the exact way it had been achieved. For instance, why did the father manage to swear to it that it had happened when they were on holiday? And the answer to that was, of course, that Eric had already bent the clock hands in the house just before they left. They locked the house up. When they came back, they discovered the bent hands. So they assumed that it happened whilst they were away.
People often invent or embellish a poltergeist story in the hope of getting a lot of public attention. That is certainly not so in Tony Cornell's latest case. Those involved with the mysterious chest of drawers have refused all publicity. That's why in this recording Tony made of one of the witnesses, released only to Nationwide, we are preserving anonymity by distorting the sound of the voice.
The very first thing that happened was I was sitting out here one day and I heard a crash and I went out and there was a little saucer on the table by the fireplace that had smashed in the fireplace. Yeah. And I said to how on earth did that smash? The most peculiar breakage was the one upstairs with the plate, the big plate of the set went across the room, smashed on the edge of the fireplace, and we went up, and it was in 3 pieces on the floor. I don't like being alone here with funny things going on, quite honestly.
These are photographs taken by Tony Cornell of the baffling behaviour of the chest of drawers. One morning it was found with all the drawers pulled out. And there were other apparently pointless examples of interference.
You see that the drawer here has been pulled out and wedged, the top left-hand drawer. It's been wedged at a very peculiar angle and is hanging down. Then we've got some more here where we wired the thing up to make sure that if anybody started pulling the drawers out or they came out mysteriously, it was set everything off. And you'll see by this photograph here that the 3 drawers have just been pulled out sufficiently, the 3 top drawers, not to break the electric contact, which is, again, a bit peculiar.
Those who study these matters are concentrating on 2 possible explanations for poltergeist activities. One is that someone in the house unconsciously creates, perhaps through tension or aggression, a violent surge of energy which makes things move without being touched. The other theory is that disembodied spirits are somehow involved. Dr. Alan Gauld of Nottingham University, who's written the standard work on poltergeists with Tony Cornell, believes that as long as there's no fraud, poltergeist events are more likely to come from unknown forces linked to a human being on the spot. This case he investigated is one of the most mysterious he's ever known.
He was a boy of about 12, living with his mother and an ancient granny in a terraced 2-up, 2-down house. About a week after they moved into this house, funny things started to happen in his bedroom. Very loud banging noises, like a strong man with a sledgehammer thumping and thumping and thumping away constantly at the floor of his room, terrifying the family. I got called in about the 3rd or 4th day of this when the noises were still going on, and I've got a lot of tape recordings of them. I once heard 200 of these very loud bangs, one after the other. And clearly, this lad couldn't have been doing them, or at any rate, he couldn't have been doing all of them, because he was observed while they were going on a number of occasions. He came downstairs while the noises continued upstairs in his bedroom. Actually, we took the floor of the bedroom up to see if there was machinery laid under it, and there wasn't.
Startling evidence, certainly, but real proof is more elusive. To try to achieve it, Gauld and Cornell have bought the allegedly haunted chest so they can wire it up to their electronic equipment and almost dare it to misbehave. Technology may help to make fraud a bit harder to achieve, but magician David Burglas shows that it can also be used to fool the unsuspecting.
Sometimes people make mistakes. I mean, they play around with lights and they go, hey.
Was it fused?
No, that was funny. It's funny we should just be talking about that, you see. But you see, you mustn't be fooled, because even a thing like that can be set up. If I go like that, I can put it on again. But it looks mysterious, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Yes.
But are you saying that was a trick?
That was definitely a trick, I can assure you.
Both Tony and I have come across a number of cases, sometimes quite entertaining cases, in which fraud has been practiced.
While I was talking to Dr. Gauld, a telephone call from somewhere in East Anglia, where the chest of drawers had been, announced that there'd been another incident, and Tony Cornell set off yet again to investigate. Later, he reported back.
This is ridiculous, honestly.
I believe it.
Look, I've just been down there when you were being filmed, and what they've now had is they've had a picture thrown on the top floor from a position down here towards the fireplace, and it's smashed.
This is the old staircase, is it?
That's right.
Yeah.
See, the last incident was at the top here. Now they've got one from here. But I just can't make it out. I don't think anybody's fooling around. I think that's genuine. And how much of the rest is?
I didn't get the impression that I was having my leg pulled.
No, nor did I. So the mystery deepens, does it not?
It does.
Tony Cornell was for 11 years chairman of Cambridgeshire County Council Planning Committee. and his way of establishing any dirty work at the crossroads is one which Hercule Poirot would doubtless recommend. He maps out each incident and then plots the position of everyone in the house at the time.
If there are 38 events, as there are here, there'll be 38 individual plans showing the position of the person when the thing happened, or if there's more than one person, where 3 people are, for instance, as in this particular case. You've got to do that because you've got to find out whether or not they're taking you for a ride or not, or whether it's
After
genuine.
30 years of
In the end,
hunting
you'll find
and
out
never
maybe
finding
that,
the
that
final
should
proof
be
that convinces beyond doubt, what drives Tony Cornell to keep on trying?
That's a very interesting question I've ever asked myself after I've been sitting up in a house all night and feel damn tired the next morning. I used to say, and I think I still say, to try and make sense out of what appears to be nonsense. Because a lot of this stuff does appear to be nonsense. What keeps me going? It's, I think so far, a field that has not been yet fully explained. Allowing for the fact there's a lot of fraud, there's a lot of delusion, there's a lot of wishful thinking, there still is a hard core of something that has yet to be explained. And it's a challenge.
Meanwhile, back at the storeroom, 3 more pieces of crockery have been broken, and in Tony's house, the chest is wired up so that if in the small hours the drawers suddenly fly open without human agency, it'll be immortalized on sound and film. So far, nothing. But we'll keep you posted.